Hey, Steve Zook here. Welcome back to Poke Suit Channel and the Guitar Ladder System. This is kind of a rare Ibanez. They didn't make that many of these AF95s with the rosewood like this, so I really don't want to sell this, but I will. I tell you what I want to talk about today, though, is first of all, this is an interesting subject. Recently, Pat Martino passed away. I really don't believe in death. I think he just goes somewhere else. That's a whole nother rap. I don't want to get into that one, right? But I certainly had a lot of respect for Pat Martino. In fact, at one point, because I studied with Joe Pass when I was really young. I studied with Howard Roberts. I studied with Horace Hatchett about 5 times, who taught Howard Roberts. And, Horace never got into a bunch of intense theory. He didn't get into over defining everything. He was into ear training, which is what kind of Joe Pass told me. You know, Figuring out everything you do and defining everything and learning all the rules and regulations isn't the end all to becoming a better guitar player and really understanding music. Um, you know, it's when I studied with Joe Pass, and Joe Pass used to say, the chordal improvisation is the key to ear training, and figuring everything out. Even Steve Howe used to talk about that, or talks about it, because I don't want to know exactly what I'm doing, and it's a whole different headspace. Art is different. It's not like rebuilding a car engine, step one, step two, step three. And the minute you try to control everything and figure everything out, you're not going to be as artistic. Sure, it's good to know some basic theory and know what chords are and how scales relate to chords and the tonal centers and things like that. But that's why when I was a young man, I studied concert level classical. Oh my God, I was practicing 6 hours a day just to keep up with the concert level classical. I studied with John Bent, who's a great teacher. I studied flamenco. I studied improvisation, jazz, composition. I studied lots of different styles of music, because if you marry one genre, you limit yourself. But I want to talk a little bit about Pat Martino today. In fact, when I years ago I went up to, it was called GIT. It's now Musicians Institute, which was started by Howard Roberts, and one of my teachers, Horace Hatchett, who I studied with 5 times, was the one that taught Howard Roberts when Howard Roberts was a young man. So, and like I said, he didn't get into over defining things. There's different teachers for different people. I'm not into a competitive thing. In fact, Pat Martino said, "Let go of competition and deceit, and you can do anything you want in life." Wow. Pat Martino was heavy, man. In fact, this guy at GIT, back when I went there years ago, and he was thinking of hiring me, and then he goes, "Well, Ron Estes has a lot of similar material, so he appreciated what I was doing, but he goes, I kind of have it covered. And Ron Estes is a great player and a great teacher. But anyway, he said Pat Martino should be walking around in a white robe. He said the guy was very spiritual, and really just not just a beautiful person, but a very evolved person. But that's why I watch other teachers and what they say, and I think we all have something special to offer. My approach, which may not be for everybody, is not to over-define things, not to teach a bunch of rules. To me, it's more of learning to open up your musical ear, learning to create and feed your musical ear, learning to what I call seed the subconscious mind, just like planting a seed in soil and it grows and spurts. And the results I've seen have been tremendous. But I'm not so arrogant to say that my approach is for everybody, and I don't want to say other people's approaches are not valid. But my emphasis is not so much on marrying a genre as completely trying to grow your musical ear, period, which can then apply to any style of music. Myself, I'm real into jazz. I'm real into altered tunings, kind of Michael Hedges style stuff. I do some flamenco stuff. But I want to talk about Pat, maybe share kind of a Pat Martino style lick today. But like I said, we all have our own approach, and God bless everybody. I'm not competing with anybody. But defining everything isn't the end all. And part of becoming a really growing as a musician and a guitar player, big part of it is learning to let go, learning to let your subconscious help teach you and build your musical ear, and then every day improvising. I always teach my customers and my students, always be improvising. And in fact, Pat Martino used to say the hardest thing is to trust your direction. I thought that was really interesting. But let's just, God bless Pat Martino. He's still around. He's up there jamming with Joe Pass, Wes Montgomery, But let's maybe talk a little bit about, a style. You take the diminished arpeggios, that's one form. And we're going to take the diminished arpeggio is a 1 flat 3 flat 5 double flat 7. Of course, the diminished chord sounds like this, and it repeats itself every minor third. And this form, this one has, it's not exactly, this one's a root flat 5. I don't want to go into all that. The bottom line, the diminished chord's 1 flat 3 flat 5 double flat 7. You can mix up those voices any way you want. Let's take this. So we take this idea here. So we're going to go, and then we're going to go to this note. So you're using the diminished arpeggio, and we're also thinking the half step, whole step scale. So good to work that chromatically. So we're kind of starting off with the diminished arpeggio, and then we're going to chromaticize on the second string, and then come in with an augmented splash. So that's kind of a Pat Martino-ish lick. To me, Pat Martino had a lot of color in his playing. So there's the diminished arpeggio, and then you kind of chromaticize in the second string, come in with this augmented splash. This is an augmented here. I almost think I want to turn down the tone control a little bit, but yeah. I'm not real warmed up right now. I think it's good to work that kind of stuff chromatically. But yeah, Pat Martino had a nice way of kind of adding those kind of like, augmented splashes. But so this lick is, and of course you want to try to get it fluid. And that's kind of in the Pat Martino style. And like I said, like even when I studied with Joe Pass, he used to emphasize, really used to emphasize, chordal improvisation is the key to growth. Horace Hatchett, the same thing. I studied with Horace Hatchett 5 times. He didn't over-define anything. And he taught a lot of polychords and a lot of chordal improvisation, but he didn't get hung up. He didn't verbalize it the way I do, but he didn't get hung up in defining everything, because art is different. And again, there's nothing wrong, but to really let your deepest musical thoughts come out, the defining everything gets in the way. But you know what? A lot of guitar teachers kind of fall into a trap because they're making money by defining everything. Again, different strokes for different folks. I find the best thing to do is to have more of an overview. And by the way, it really takes a hell of a lot of thought to come up with a unique system to teach chordal improvisation and improvisation on guitar. It took me years, but I really have something really powerful with the guitar letter system. It's only $199. It's 100 studies with chart and video for each. I do not send it all at once. People always forget that. I do not send all at once. But I break it down into 10 different systems of improvisation, but I teach that organically within the studies, again, and then it's very important to improvise every day. But anyway, so that's the kind of the Pat Martino. Hopefully you can see that. So, and the diminished, it's good to get these diminished arpeggios under your belt. I like to work this form chromatically. Martino also had a nice way of kind of sequencing and doubling up. Like he might do this, and then he'd double up. So yeah, I mean, Pat Martino was a beautiful cat. I think he, as he evolved, he just understood that there's a spiritual component to being an artist and a musician. And like I said, my teaching may not be for everybody, but the results I've seen from private students has been, I know this sounds like bullshit, but I'm not lying, it's almost supernatural. Because when you trust the subconscious mind and you feed the subconscious mind, it can produce incredible quantum leaps, because you kind of get out of the way. I think that's why you have to be really careful over defining things, but I don't want to get too much into that. But anyway, he's up there, Pat Martino's up there jamming with Joe Pass, Wes Montgomery. Like I said, they've even proven in physics that energy doesn't die, it just transfers. That's a whole nother rap. I don't want to get into a big thing about that. But anyway, Pat Martino was very inspirational to me. But anyway, so here's a lick in Pat Martino style. So it uses that diminished arpeggio, which is a 1 flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7. It's not in that. I don't want to worry about the order I'm playing it in. So we have that. You want to try to get that fluid. And I'm not super warmed up, and there's no reason to blaze through that lick. I'm trying to share and teach the lick. So again. Here's my A. I may not be at a concert pitch. Yeah, so you get that going. So just work that slow. And it's good for your subconscious, kind of seeding this, move that around. So you hear it, so your subconscious can kind of catalog what that sounds like in different areas. Because like some of the best solos I've done, which are kind of jazzy, I've even had other guitar companies use my solos on their websites and on their ads for guitars and everything, and they're complimentary to me. But when you're in the process of actually soloing, you're not thinking. Even Joe Pass talked about that. There's a big subject of learning to let go. So you kind of learn, and then you learn to let go. So I'm not trying to play it perfect right now. I'm trying to slow down and share the idea. Anyway, so that's the lick. Again, here's my A, in case I know I'm not tuned right at the concert pitch. I'm probably a little low, but I like the way they sound. And again, you might want to just use this diminished arpeggio form here and practice some of those sequences. You can always come with a major seventh splash. So anyway, so the other one was, or you can do it slightly different. So as opposed to coming down and then you can just do these two and then maybe go to this one. Anyway, Pat Martino, you know, and I've been doing transcendental meditation for 37 years, so I guess I admit I'm very metaphysical. I just think that we're a walking miracle. And again, there's different strokes for different folks, but you're going to make more progress on the guitar if you don't over-define everything and you don't try to put it into a cute little box. And but anyway, God bless Pat Martino. The universe is friendly. It's always on purpose. It knows what it's doing. Energy doesn't die. It just transfers. So, you know, he was a big influence. I love his stuff. And, you know, God bless Pat Martino and try those ideas. All right, folks. Take care. Bye-bye. This guitar is $9.99.